let me begin by first thanking you for the opportunity. And I know I share the same sentiment as our colleagues across the state. We're all trying to learn from one another. I think the big picture here for us here in Warren County is the fact that we've tried to implement processes that are not only research driven and proven, but also provide options for all of our families. I've invited Melissa Stavansky, our Chief Academic Officer, to share just a brief overview. I know our time is limited, and she and her staff really have done the bulk of the heavy lifting, and she'll be in a better position to perhaps address some specific questions as well. I do want to share that we've provided our email addresses because we do have several documents on here that we're certainly willing to share with anyone. I think we all would agree when it comes to ensuring the safety of our students and staff, including teaching and learning, that nothing is proprietary. So we're more than willing to share any of those documents, and just feel free to reach out. Without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Melissa Stavansky, our Chief Academic Officer, and let her take you through what our process looks like right now. And just like many of you, it is a work in progress, and she'll be able to share a few of those highlights. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Clayton, and thanks to everyone for inviting me to be part of this today. Tony, we can move on to the next slide there. So in Warren County, one of the things that we are looking at using our funding for is, of course, to support student learning and our teachers and schools. Back in November, on this slide, you will see where we started. This five-prong approach is a document that shows different steps that we took to support students who may need to come into the building, a little more than distance learning when we did our hybrid model. We did support with some transportation. We offered Friday and Saturday school help. We've offered winter term and a spring break term, and incorporated a district dropout prevention position, and then also district accountability meetings. And we're getting a lot of good response from our district accountability meetings, where we bring students and their parents in if they are struggling, and try to problem solve and get a plan in place so that they can be successful, whether it's early primary all the way to our seniors. So this document is just several ideas that we have been implementing since November. And if anyone has any questions about those or needs any of the documents, please feel free to reach out to us. We're glad to share anything. The next document on this slide that you'll see is our next step. This is our timeline of response to interrupted learning. One of the things in Warren County we want to move away from is learning gap. We know that there are learning gaps, but we want to specifically respond to the interrupted learning that we know that our students have encountered. We started this about a month ago, back at the beginning of February. Our instructional team met and started to discuss concerns that we were hearing and things that we were seeing. We moved on into the next step, which was to bring our principals on in leveled meetings. This is something we do frequently in our district, and so this is an ongoing process that will continue throughout this next 18 to 24 months as we address the response to interrupted learning. And in those meetings, we're talking about what will it take for us to open school 4 days a week to all of our students who want to come back in person. This document that is linked here also shows that we've talked about summer school, how we're going to do credit recovery, all of those things. The next step on that will be to get stakeholder input, and then we're going to steep this in research. We are coming with a lot of interviews with our stakeholders, parents, students, teachers. We really want to pull our Friskies in because we know they have seen some of the hardships that our students have gone through and our families, and so we want to get a very big view of what we're facing. And then we're going to steep that in research. What are historical situations showing us is best practice, and then what do current education professionals telling us is best practice? And we're going to marry the two and come up with endorsements that our schools can choose from. The next document on this slide, this is a position statement on retention. We know one of the things that we're facing is schools either questioning retention or families questioning retention. And this is a statement that we've had for a while. When you click on this document, you would see we have a retention statement in so much as how it relates to English learners, and then also just in general, the aspect of retention. And it also includes the research. We often say that research doesn't support. We wanted to be able to have that research at our fingertips, and so it is part of this document as well. And then the last document on this slide that you are more than welcome to have is Learning After the Crisis. This is that research we were talking that I was talking about in the timeline of response to interrupted learning. And we are just putting all the research in one space so that we can get to it easily. This has different articles about different disasters and how education came back after them. And it also is, we're starting to add Hattie's work, Reeves' work, those kinds of things to allow us to be able to say what needs to be said, but back it with research. Tony, any of these documents that you want, if you don't have access to, you can email me and I'll be glad to share them with anyone. We want to work smarter, not harder. The next document, addressing failing needs. Well, when we address failing needs, we have to define what is failing. And when we look at Reeves, he's talking about, is that no participation or is that a proficiency level? We need to look at proficiency level. We need to know, are they failing because they haven't mastered content and skills? So we have to look at what are some options that we can use this funding for, and we have to think outside the box. Flexible hours, sometimes evening is better for students, and so we have to look at those things. We have students who are helping support their families. Looking at essential skills, doing pre-tests. We can't just say there's a learning gap, they're behind their peers. Well, they've been through a pandemic. So we need to pre-assess and we need to determine where they are and move them forward, filling in the potholes where they are, but not taking everyone back and doing remediation across the board. We're talking about summer school academies. We want to cloak these in fun and make them more camp-like so our students want to come and they want to learn. We've talked about enrichment. Patty Schaefer from Union County, one of her great ideas is that she's going to align her summer enrichment with athletic camps. And so if you get the kids there for an athletic camp, then you can do some summer enrichment as well. And then we've talked about virtual tours. So just thinking outside the box. And in Warren County, if you have great ideas to share, please do, because we love to take ideas from others too. And then our last slide there, Tony. Just some things that we've talked about in relation to retention that, just making sure that if we ever get to that point that we talk about that we're documenting everything in Infinite Campus. We've got to understand that students with IEPs, retention is not an art decision. We have to consider the whole child. Our children have been through a pandemic, so we have to address the social emotional learning. Retaining a student has that effect on students as well, the social emotional, and so we have to get past it's just being academics. And our children have been through pandemic, so we're compiling things. And then if we decide that a kindergartner needs to repeat, this was Patricia Sheffer's idea, as well as doing a combined class, because that does affect funding. Because we are not fully funded for kindergarten. So those are just some things to be thinking about in relation to monies and how we can best use them to support students, how we can support our teachers, and how we can make the best of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. And I will just close with this, Dr. Glass and colleagues. The fortunate thing that we have found throughout this entire process is we've been able to keep our focus really on our human capital. I think we all know that that's the key piece, the key ingredient to moving the needle. By no stretch of the imagination, if we figured this out, we don't have a silver bullet. But what we have tried to do is keep the focus on the instructional capacity of our high-level employees, if you will, and then trying to develop processes where we can lean on them, utilize them to help us make a difference in those students that have experienced significant challenges during this interrupted learning. So thank you all.